Hey friends, so if you don't know who I am, I'm Brett Cobley and today I'm going to be cooking up a storm for you. I'm going to be making a vegan lentil bolognese and it's just a really healthy, tasty recipe and it uses a fantastic ingredient which is red lentils, which you can see over here. I'll grab them for you now. These red lentils are going to be really useful to have in your cupboard because you can also make lasagna with the same sauce. You can make dal with them. There's really no end to the kind of things you can create with them. They're fantastic for burgers. They're fantastic for loads and loads of things. So today I'm going to be making a bolognese and I'm going to show you some of the ingredients that you're going to want to use for the bolognese today. So let's take a look. I'll just unclip you from here and let's flip this round so that you can see obviously the lentils that we just spoke about. I've got some olive oil here, a tin of plum tomatoes. I've used peeled plum tomatoes today. I've used an Italian variety. Over here we've got some salt. We've got a teaspoon of oregano, teaspoon of basil and 2 teaspoons of rosemary. That's 1 teaspoon of salt right there. I've got some pepper. I'm going to use that for seasoning at the end. Some dried pasta, that's what we're going to have with a bolognese today. If you can't get your hands on dried pasta, then what you can do is you can take some potatoes, and if you've ever had patatas bravas, I think that a fantastic way to have this is going to be cube some potatoes, fry them or bake them in the oven, and have bolognese on top of it, similar to patatas bravas. You can even add some chili flakes or some fresh chili in there as well. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So that's a fantastic way to enjoy it as well. Or if you can't get your hands on spaghetti like this, something that you can also do is you can soak some lasagna sheets and then cut them into strips, and that's going to be a really great way to use up some lasagna sheets that a lot of people seem to have in their cupboards, and while they can't find pasta, lasagna sheets are a great go-to. So just a bit more about this. So we also have 1 kind of medium to small chopped carrot. We have 4 cloves of garlic. We have 1 diced onion and a diced stick of celery. Now, a lot of recipes won't take to have 4 cloves of garlic in them, but I really love garlic, and if anyone else is ever going to do another recipe, I'm always going to at least double how much garlic they put in it because I love it so much, and I really just don't think one adult should tell another adult how much garlic to put in a dish. So that's loose. If you want to put 7 cloves in, you go right ahead, be my guest. One more thing that I want to show you is I've got a dish that our vegetables are going in, the chopped vegetables here, but then I've got a waste dish as well, which is brilliant to have on hand to discard some of the skins, just some of the kind of papery skins. Can't really do anything with that other than maybe put it in some compost. And over here I've got the waste, but it's not real waste. It is the skins that we don't really want to eat in this particular recipe. But what I suggest is having a bowl to one side that you're going to put that kind of stuff in and then putting it in a jar. And what you're going to do is you're going to keep that together, a few days worth of veg waste, and you can make yourself a great stock or gravy. It's going to be absolutely delicious. So if you kind of save up your week's worth of veg waste and then on the weekend, you're going to be able to use that in a stock and create a beautiful gravy for your roast dinner. You're also going to help to reduce the waste, and you can also still take those trimmings and put them in the compost after. So it's just win. So what I'm going to be using today, I'm going to be using a cast iron skillet. So the reason I like a cast iron skillet is I find it is going to just absolutely last forever. It's super sturdy and it doesn't have any kind of non-stick on it or anything like that. Some of the non-stick coatings can kind of begin to flake off over time, especially if you're not using the right spatulas and things, and they actually get into your food and they're not very good for us. We eat them, they go inside of it. It's not great. I've also here got a stainless pan with a lid. The only reason the lid's important is because the lid is going to lock in that heat and it's going to help the water boil quicker for when we're making pasta. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to go right ahead. I'm going to put you back on the stand and we're going to begin to make this incredible lentil bolognese. So let's pop you back on the stand. This is always the awkward part. There we go. Worked out okay this time. So let's pop you down like that, and we'll do a bit of a switch. So first of all, before we go any further, I'm going to put some water onto the boil. This bolognese doesn't take a really long time, so it's pretty easy. We can pop some water onto the boil and get pasta going when that's boiled. Okay, nice big pan of water there. I'm going to pop it on a high heat, and I'm also going to sprinkle it with some salt as well. So big pinch of salt, pop that in your water. We'll pop the salt to one side now. And then, as I said before, we're going to pop the lid on it, and that's going to keep in as much of the heat as possible. It's going to speed up the boiling process. It's not going to take absolutely forever to boil, which is fantastic. So we'll just pop that handle over to one side over there so we don't knock it. And then on this big ring here, oh, hit the wrong one. We're going to pop the heat on, and I'm going to turn it all the way down to a really low heat. So first up, I'm going to pop some olive oil in there. So I've got a little dish of olive oil here. This is just over a tablespoon. It's probably a tablespoon and a half. We're just going to drizzle that on. Bearing in mind we're on a low heat. And then over here we've got one small brown onion. You can see I've really finely diced it. For anyone who doesn't know, the real good method to cut an onion, for me it's my preferred method, and I know it's a preferred method for a lot of people, is take an onion. I'll grab one out of the cupboard so I can show you, so I don't have to mime it for you. There we go. So take an onion, you're going to cut it in half. You've got your furry end or the root end, and you've got your top of the onion as well. Once you've cut it in half, you're going to lay one half flat, and then you're going to peel the outer skin off, and you're going to make incisions all the way down the onion, but they're not going to go through the root. You want to leave about 1/2 centimetre away from going through the root. Then you're going to make an incision lengthways down the onion, and then as you slice your way down the onion, you're going to get left with these beautiful little cubes, and there's no need to kind of rock chop or dice the onion after you've already cut it. Got some celery here, and then I've just cubed up the carrot. I like my carrot to be cut into small little chunks for things like bolognese, and then I've got my finely minced garlic as well. Again, I just want to reiterate, save as much of the wet veg waste as you can. If you don't want to make a stock, then at least try and compost it where possible. But now we're just going to pop this into our pan on low heat. That's absolutely beautiful, just checking you can see that there. And I'm just going to grab a wooden spoon. And I'm just going to knock that around a bit. Okay, beautiful. Let's put you into it a bit more, get you centered. So yeah, all we're doing is we're just going to soften this veg up. We're going to start to saute it, and this is going to be absolutely beautiful. Okay, so while that's cooking away, softening up, we're going to start looking at the next part of our dish. So, as I said earlier, on the plate we have 2 teaspoons of rosemary, a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano, and over here we've got a teaspoon of salt as well. These are the proportions and the kind of ratios of spices that I like for this dish. I like a real nice, strong taste of rosemary to come through. If that isn't something you like, obviously change that up. You can use thyme, you can go with any kind of herbs you want. This is my kind of basic, it's my go-to. Also, I like using dried herbs just to show people that it's possible to create really beautiful, rich, decadent dishes with dried herbs that are going to last pretty much forever. But if you prefer to use fresh herbs, go for it. If you've got your own little herb garden, that's absolutely fantastic. Make sure you save any little stalks and stems, pop them in that veg pot, and you can make a beautiful stock with them after. And here, this is going to go in after the herbs and spices, and it is just 1 cup. I like to use cup measurements for things like this. They're just really simple to use. This is a cup measurement, and a cup measurement is 250 ml. I think you can see that on there. But yeah, 250 ml per cup. So it's 1/4 litre. And you just want a nice flat measurement of dried lentils. You want to pop them in a bowl like this, rinse them off a couple of times, put them through a sieve just to get all that moisture off, and put them back in the bowl and just cover them with water. What you're going to find is after a few hours, I always suggest soaking them for at least an hour, but after a few hours, you're going to find that they've soaked up most of the water. There might be a tiny bit of liquid at the bottom. I don't worry about that. You're going to find that they've soaked it up, and they're going to pretty much double in size. So let's just show you what's going on with this veg. So let's turn this around. There we go. So this is just in the pan, softening up, sauteing away. And as you can see, it's on a really low heat, so nothing's catching, nothing's burning. It's beautiful. And I can tell you, the garlic is really coming through. I can really smell that beautiful garlic. Smell the celery, absolute unsung hero. And a real potent smell from the onion as well. So while that's sauteing away, for anyone who doesn't know me and doesn't follow me currently, my tag is @Cobley, so you can head over to there and check that out. I wrote a book called What Vegans Eat, and it's over 100 recipes of just really simple, delicious, store-cupboard items that you can go out, get. A lot of the stuff you're already going to have in your cupboards. There's very few specialist ingredients in there, and you can make really delicious vegan food. So if you want to check that out, it's on Amazon, it's in WH Smith, it's in loads and loads of stores that you can go and check it out. But this recipe isn't in there, so this is a beautiful free recipe for you. But recipes similar to this, beautiful, tasty, home cooking recipes, they are in there. So check that out, and let's get back to these. Get back to this beautiful Bolognese. Anyone in the comments as well, feel free to ask me some questions. Feel free to engage with me. If there's anything you want to know, if there's anything you'd like some advice on, or some tips and tricks for creating recipes like this, hit me up in the comments, and I'm going to help you as much as I can while I'm cooking away with this. But we're just going to let this really soften up. I hope everyone's staying safe at the moment. Sometimes people comment on videos and they say about washing your hands as if that should be included as part of the video. I can confirm, I always wash my hands, keep them nice and clean before I start cooking. I advise you do the same, especially in these times. Make sure you're rubbing them with soap for 20 seconds and make sure you're staying safe, staying home, and create yourself some beautiful dishes. Or maybe even go down this route, which I've gone down. Anyone guess what's in the jar? My sourdough starter. Loving creating some sourdough at the minute, some sourdough pizza, some working on some bread, but this starter is at the heart of it. So I hope people at home are learning some new skills. I hope they're trying new dishes that they've not tried before. But it's always nice to go back to the kind of basics, the real hearty, beautiful recipes like this. So let's carry on with it. Okay, so this is kind of, the onion's going translucent. I can see that the garlic's cooked now, and everything else is starting to soften up. I can see that the celery is softened up. So I think we're ready now to add in our spices. So just to remind you, we have a teaspoon of basil, teaspoon of oregano, 2 teaspoons of rosemary, and a teaspoon of salt. With this recipe, I know a lot of people are no salt in their diets. Absolutely fantastic, leave it out, that's fine. Or if it's just the actual sodium that you don't like and you need replacements for it, this dish is going to work by adding some soy sauce. If you prefer to go down the soy route rather than using salt, be my guest, that's going to work. Soy's also got a nice umami flavour, it's going to work well with this dish. And also, obviously, I used a fair amount of olive oil. I really like olive oil, I like using it, I like cooking with it. You definitely can do this you could cook this in the stainless pan with a little bit of water. You could do it in a skillet as well. Skillets are a bit more likely to stick, but keep it on a low heat, keep adding little bits of water in, and you definitely can make this without the olive oil. Obviously it's not the traditional method, but no vegan cooking really is that traditional, because we're going to take out a lot of the primary ingredients that people often use to create these dishes. So I really tend not to worry too much about keeping things too traditional. So let's get the herbs and spices in there. There we go. Beautiful. And then keeping it on a low heat, we're just going to stir that together, and that's going to combine and coat everything in. So let me take you over here and give you a bit of a closer look. So here we go. You can see that it's really coating our vegetables, and that's what we want. We want them to get nice and coated. Okay, this is fantastic. You see it's nicely coated. Here we go. Beautiful. Yeah, so Catilla, you can substitute the red lentils for green lentils as well. Wouldn't be an issue at all. It's going to work really well in the dish, so don't worry about that. Any substitutions you want to make, always feel free. As I said, yeah, you do need a smell-o-vision. It'd be really nice to get your nose in there, but you can use green lentils for this dish. You can replace the red lentils, but you can also use dried porcini mushrooms or just chestnut mushrooms that you really finely chop. Chop them almost like you're mincing them. You can also use a mix of veg, like chopped up veg, like minced, with mushrooms, and then also using some grains in there as well. Use a mix of grains, use things like bulgur wheat, barley, things like that, mixed up and kind of minced together with some of the vegetables, and that's going to create a beautiful kind of grain mince. And they actually do sell grain mince in certain supermarkets and things, so that's a really good one to give a try if you either don't have the red lentils or you just don't like red lentils. So here we go. This is perfect now. This is ready for the ingredient we we're just talking about, and that is the red lentils. So all we're going to do is we're going to get this bowl into the pan. There we go. Okay, I'm going to grab a spatula because I don't want to waste those last little bits. So we have a spatula here. These are just really useful. It's just a silicone spatula, but it's just really useful for getting all these last little bits that kind of stick into the bowl. So all we do is it's going to stick nicely to the sides of the bowl, a bit like a windscreen wiper, and it's just going to be able to take all those beautiful bits of lentil and make sure that we're as zero waste as humanly possible. Beautiful. So that's in there. Now we need to add our tomatoes. So I'm going to wash my hands again quickly. So let's get down into the sink now. I'm going to get that on and I'm going to give it a rub for 20 seconds. So it's on a super low heat, so there's no kind of danger of anything catching now. But I just want to show you how I kind of prepare the tomatoes for this dish. Lost my words a little bit there. So how I prepare the tomatoes and how I think you should prepare the tomatoes, because it's just going to give you less work later. John, I would suggest, if you can, soak the lentils for a few hours or even overnight. If you know you're going to make this the next day, then it's absolutely fantastic to prepare them overnight. But if you haven't got time, I would say at least an hour. At least an hour is going to work fantastically to make sure that they soak up some of that water, and that 1 cup of dried lentils that you're going to be using turns into 2. There we go. I suggest you give them a rinse and then soak them preferably overnight. Okay. So, get my hands nice and dry, and then I'm going to show you in this bowl over here. What we're going to do is we're going to use peeled plum tomatoes. We're going to use a stainless bowl. You can use a clay bowl, you can use a glass bowl, it really doesn't matter. But we're going to pour our tomatoes in. There we go, beautiful. And then going to get your hands in there, and I just want you to mush the tomatoes up. So mushing the tomatoes up like this, what it's going to do, it's going to save us the hassle when we actually start to put these tomatoes in the pan of using the spoon to break them up. So mushing them up like this, it's going to save us a bit of time, save us a bit of effort, and it's also going to improve the consistency of the overall dish. So let's get these mushed up. There we go. And then we're going to add them to the dish. So, I'll bring you over here. Hope I'm not making you seasick. There we go. And then we're going to pop that in there. Then what we're going to do, another little zero waste tip for you. So we've got a bowl like this, and we've also got a tin, and it's hard to see because it's quite bright outside, but you can see all the tomato that's stuck to the side of it. I'm going to fill the tin up about halfway. Beautiful. And I'm just going to drop that lid, and I'm going to give it a bit of a swirl. I went a bit gung-ho there, I went a bit too hard. There we go, swirl it. Then we're going to pour it into the bowl. And you're going to see the tin itself is nice and clean inside now. And we're just going to give it another little swirl in the bowl, because we want to keep as much of that tomato as possible, and that liquid is also going to help cook those lentils through. So beautiful, we're going to pour that in there as well. And we're going to very gently, because our pot's becoming quite full now, start to stir that in and combine it. There we go, beautiful. And I'm going to turn the heat up just a touch. Okay, so the heat's turned up a touch, so that's going to start to bubble in a moment, and it's going to start to thicken up a little bit. So some of the water is going to start to evaporate, it's going to cause it to thicken up, and you're going to get a nice thick bolognese. Over here, that water that we put on, you can definitely see that in the background, that's starting to bubble, so we can put a pasta on as well. This is going to take between 15 and 20 minutes to get thick. So in a few minutes we're gonna put spaghetti on. I'm going to show you how to cook that, and what it's going to do is it's going to mean that our kind of longest lead time when cooking, half of cooking is just planning, especially if you're making a dish for kind of a lot of people. You want to think about the longest lead times of all the different dishes you're going to create, and you want to think all the different elements and how you can make it as least stressful as possible. And you also don't want some of your food to be going cold or overcooking or getting dried out because it's overcooked. So you want to make sure you stagger things in the best way. I'm going to go through, I'm going to check some of these comments. Our window's steaming up, so I'm going to check that. Here we go. Yeah, sort through your lentils, you don't want to crack a tooth, that's really good. Here we go. Yeah, rinse a couple of times, soak for a few hours. Yeah, you can see it's bubbling there. Yeah, rinse a couple of times. You'll see how murky the water is as you're rinsing off the lentils. So it's really good. It's really good to do that. I reckon you can. I sometimes use black beluga lentils. Yeah, absolutely great. So I think I've mentioned it a few times now, but for our hungry hearts, I'm making a Bolognese and I'm making it with lentils. I think this is all the comments so far. Yeah, non-stick can be really toxic to you, you know, after if it starts to come off, and especially if you're using like an old pan. Brilliant. Okay. Yes to more garlic. Love it. Yeah, people are all in agreement that they love garlic, and I love it too, so you lot can stay. Here we go. Right, so you can see that's bubbling away, and that's going to thicken up. Where's my spoon gone? Beautiful. Okay, that's bubbling now. I can just turn that down a touch. Fantastic. Put that onto a low heat now. And now, why don't we put that spaghetti on? So, a lot of you will know this. Can we zoom? Yes, we can. We filled up the pot and we popped the lid on. Now we pop the lid on because that's going to trap the heat in. It's going to improve the time at which it takes to boil. So now you can see you've got a really bubbling pot of boiling water there. I'm going to cook enough pasta for 2 to 3 people here. And what we're going to do, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, we hope it does today, is we're going to twist it. We're going to twist it like that, and we're going to drop it in the centre of the pan. So we're going to twist it and then drop it. You're going to see it's going to come out to the sides like that. Now that it's out to the sides, because we have a nice hot boiling pan, we're just going to be able to tap the ends, and it's going to go below the ridge of the pan. Okay, once it's below the ridge, your work's not quite done yet. You can take a spoon or you can take some tongs, and all you're going to do is just push those tip ends under the water, like so. And now that's fully submerged. You're not going to get any burnt pasta ends. Beautiful. So now that's under the water, you're not going to burn the ends at all, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want. And also, it's going to start to soften really quickly because we've got that really hot bubbling water, as you just saw. So it's as soon as it starts to soften, what I like to do, and these are probably my favourite tool in the kitchen. If you could give me like 3 tools, if you're going to keep me to 3 tools or 4 tools, I'd say cast iron skillet, absolutely love them. I use them for flipping everything. I'm baking them, I'm cooking them. Tongs, chef's tongs. These are what I'm going to use when this pasta softens up. As it starts to soften up, oh, you can't see that. As it starts to soften up like so, I'm just going to start to agitate it a little bit, move it around. There we go. Beautiful. And as it softens up, I just want to make sure that I mix it in, get it nice and soft, and I make sure that none of the pieces are sticking together. Fantastic. Okay, it's all going well. It's all going well so far. Okay, so I'm going to grab my wooden spoon again, and I'm just going to keep stirring this as it starts to thicken. You should be able to tell by now that when I put it all together, it was quite watery. So let's look. There we go. Beautiful. It was quite watery when I put it together, but now you can see there's still some liquid there, but it's really started to thicken up nicely. Those lentils are going to absorb some of the water, and the rest of it is going to kind of evaporate away. Now, this recipe that I'm creating today, this what I'm cooking here, I've put a couple of optional things in there. One of them is red wine. So if you find yourself a nice vegan red wine, or even a vegan cooking wine, there's plenty of them out there, plenty of them on the restaurant shelves. Sorry, on the supermarket shelves, not on the restaurant shelves. Don't steal them from restaurants. And if you find them, put about 100 ml in there. You don't want a lot in there. You don't want to completely overpower it, but it is going to give you like a nice tart taste into your Bolognese. It's going to work absolutely fantastically. The other thing is a stock cube. Some people are absolutely adamant that they like to add stock cubes to things like Bologneses. They'll add them to stews, things like that. For me, the primary taste that you get from a stock cube is the saltiness. And as long as you season your food properly and you add in the spices and things like that, then I don't always feel that you need them. But it will thicken it up slightly. It will give you more of a hearty feel, more like kind of a gravy. So absolutely up to you. I'm not adding one today, but as you can see, this is bubbling away beautifully now. There we go. I tell you what, veg soup, hummus and bread though it's a definite vegan staple, so I'm definitely loving your ideas for lunch today. And there we go, wild garlic soup. That sounds fantastic as well. Here we go. You guys in the comments, I think you take a few give a few cooking lessons of your own. So here we go. You can see this is really starting to thicken up. It's starting to take on that liquid now. This is bubbling over here. We can turn that down now because our pasta's going to really start to soften. If we just take a look. There we go. Fantastic. You can see that softened. There we go. A few more minutes and that's going to be al dente. It's going to be ready to go, ready to serve up. Okay, fantastic. So we've literally just got a few minutes now of just pure cooking time. It's gonna do all the work for me over here. So, has anyone got any questions? Anything they'd like to ask? Anything about vegan cooking in general? Any tips, tricks, things like that? Or maybe you've got some tips and tricks to offer up yourself that you want to let people in the comments know. Yeah, thanks. I think it looks delicious. It definitely smells delicious here in the kitchen. I think someone said earlier about smell-o-vision. I really wish it was, because I'd love you to be able to have a whiff of this. The fantastic thing as well is that red lentils, and I'll show you what kind of red lentils I'm using. I'm just using a pack here of just store-bought red lentils, just kind of own brand. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and they're going to last for a really, really long time. So you've not got to worry too much about getting the kind of more fancy, fresh ingredients in. They're going to go off quite quick. They can cause a lot of waste if you don't store them properly. So I think red lentils are a fantastic addition to your cupboard. Here we go. Stirring this. This is very, very nearly ready now. I think I can put that heat all the way down. And that pasta. Let's have a look. It's the moment. That is perfect. Perfectly al dente. It's exactly there. So we'll put that one to one side. Obviously I'm not going to put it back in the pot. It's not just me eating this. So I'm going to turn the heat off that altogether. You want to turn the heat off straight away, because what I find is obviously that pasta in the hot water, it's going to continue to cook every second I leave it in there. So as it's perfectly al dente now, I want to act quickly and I want to drain it straight away. So I'm going to grab a colander. There we go. nice big one. But the reason I love them tongs so much is because if you don't have a colander, you can just use the tongs and pick them up and serve them like that. So I'm sure you've drained pasta before, but I am going to show you anyway. Here we go. I'm going to hold it a bit of an angle like that, because sometimes if you kind of hang it down like that or get too low, you're going to kind of burn your fingers on the steam. So I just kind of put the two together. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. I know a lot of people like to put it on top like that when they drain it now, and then turn it upside down. I'm not really a fan of that for spaghetti because I find you get a few bits that kind of fall through the cracks. Okay, pop that back in my tin. A couple of stragglers there that don't want to do what I was told. There we go. Pop that just in the sink. And then I'm going to show me start to plate it up. So, over here, I tell you what, we'll do it on the chopping board over here. Let's get you down there. Let's pop a pan down. I'm going to use this absolutely beautiful plate over here. Can we get focused on that white? No, we can't. Okay, let's bring it down a bit. Okay, so grab my tongs again. And all I'm going to do is take some of the spaghetti. And I'm just going to give it a twist into our dish. Touch more, just being greedy really. Fantastic. There we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start to add some of the Bolognese sauce. So I'm going to go and grab that now. So this is how it's looking. It's nice and thick. It's absolutely beautiful. I think someone asked here we go, about putting a kind of vegan cheese on top. Do I make one? Things like that. I would always say, if you're gonna, a really, really simple one, because people have mentioned nutritional yeast here, I would say grating up some stale bread, nutritional yeast and nuts similar to like cashews is going to work really, really well on top. Touch of salt, it's going to really bring out the cheesy flavour and the nooch. So sprinkling that on top, it's going to give you the texture of Parmesan, and it's also going to give you a beautiful flavour as well. So I'd give that a go. You can store it in a jar, and it's going to keep really well, because once you've kind of blended those breadcrumbs up, they're going to keep really well. You can even bag it up and freeze it and then just take it out whenever you want to use it. So that's one for me. That's what I like to use. There are also some vegan Parmesans out there now, so give them a go. Find your favourite. It's always worth experimenting with these things. And thank you for the love on my cookbook. Let's get you right in. I want you to see this kind of food porn shot here. So let's get you right into the dish, eh? You've watched this whole thing. You want to see the beautiful shots now, eh? Let's flip you around. There we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Looking beautiful. So all we're going to do now is I'm going to take some cooking gloves. I'm just going to take some of this Bolognese sauce, and I'm just going to pop that on top. Like so. There we go. It's absolutely fantastic, just like that. I'm also going to add some freshly cracked black pepper on roughly a medium setting, because I like fairly big chunks of black pepper. There go. That is an absolutely banging dish that it should be in your go-tos. It should be right there in your go-tos. It should be a meal that you enjoy again and again. It's a fantastic dish. Someone just asked what another one of my go-tos would be. Here are we, where we got his name here, John Bickley. What would my next go-to recipe? A few that I always have in my repertoire, and some of them are in the book, and they are this Bolognese, absolute go-to, love it. Red lentil dal as well. It's really great to have a few recipes where you can use some of the same ingredients and kind of mix and match, do crossovers, and that way you know you're going to use a certain amount of the ingredients throughout the week. It's fantastic to do that. A smoky bean stew, that's one in my recipe book, and it is literally just combining a few different tins of different types of beans, some chili and some garlic and some smoked paprika. Absolutely fantastic. Get it all in there. Add some spinach, add some greens. Beautiful. Another go-to, it's a great dried cupboard item, is just a really nice rice and beans. You'll find that on my YouTube as well. You'll find a lot of these recipes on my YouTube. It's just at Brett Cobley, the same as my Instagram. I can, I'll put this in the comments now actually. Here we go. There we go. We'll post that and then I'll pin it to the top for you. There we go. So I'll pin that to the top now so you know where you can kind of find me. You can find me at Brett Cobley. You can send me DMs, ask me loads of questions. I'm literally here to serve you and help you cook the best vegan food possible. And I'm just here to help people on the vegan journey. This page is definitely just one of service, so definitely ask me some questions and I'll help wherever I can. The name of my book for Sharon, who's Mark's wife, is What Vegans Eat. If you just type in What Vegans Eat, it'll come straight up. You can get it on Amazon, get it at WHNits, you can get it at Waterstones and all the other great bookstores, and you can get it in America, you can get it in Australia, you can get it all over the world. So get yourself a copy. I'd absolutely love it if you did. And if you've got any questions about it, please drop me some messages, because I'd love to keep this conversation going. You head over to my Instagram, follow me there, head over to my YouTube, and you can subscribe to my content. You're going to be seeing new recipes coming out all the time. If you like the sound of that lentil dal, that is my most recent recipe uploaded to YouTube. So that's a fantastic one for you to take a look at. And also, if you like the sound of the rice and beans, things like that, that's on there as well. But please keep the conversation going. I'd love to keep chatting to you guys. So, Sharon, I've been vegan for over 4 years now. I know it's so cliche to say, but it really was the best decision I've ever made. It came a time for me when I learned the information about the impact that the kind of animal agriculture industry is just having on the world, and just how the animals are treated, and it is unjust and unfair. And once I was educated on it, I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I had to make the decision to go vegan. And that for me sparked a conversation around, what do vegans eat? And that is why it became the name of my first cookbook. And I absolutely love that book to this day. It's been out for just over a year, and really happy. And if you guys can keep this engagement going, keep chatting to me about it, keep letting me know what you would like to know more about in terms of vegan cooking, then it's going to help me write more and more cookbooks to help you even more. I don't want to write cookbooks that you don't like and that you don't need. I don't want to make content that you don't need. It's not self-indulgent. As I say, it's an act of service. So anything you want to know, drop me a message and I'll be there for you. Thank you very, very much for watching this live today. I'm Brett Cobley, and thank you very much for Vegan Food and Living for allowing me to chat to their lovely audience. So you guys be nice to each other, and goodbye.